So first thing first, we have to start with some very exciting news that happened this week, and that is that we have a new kitten. Some of you might remember previously my old cat who passed away last year, Smarty, being in some of my videos, and since then we have been considering buying and adopting a new kitten for such a long time, and we finally have one, and his name is Artemis, and he's a little ginger boy, and he's very cute, but he has to stay in his room so I can't show you, but look forward to future videos when I can have cuddles and show him off to you on screen. Hi guys, my name is Kirsty and welcome to Upside Down Books. Today we're going to be doing a sort of recent reads video, seeing as I didn't actually get around to doing a January wrap-up, and it's now the end of February, it's the start of March, so I'm going to basically be doing a wrap-up for the last couple of months. I didn't read very much. I think it's about 7 books in total, so I've not been having much time to get reading done. It's been an incredibly busy year. In January I was traveling, that was my excuse, but now through February I have been house hunting. I am looking at moving out of home in the next few weeks now, and so getting all of that organised has consumed all of my time, but we'll have more news on that later, and I hopefully will be doing a bookshelf reorganisation because I will have to move all of my books into the new place, so that's pretty exciting. So we are just going to have a look today at the books that I got around to reading. I wish I had read more. There are so many books that are waiting to be read. I have been sent so many books for review. I have bought so many books, and I still have so many books from Christmas, but I'm slowly making my way through them. So let's have a look at what I got around to reading, and if we have time I might also throw in my book haul for February as well, because I have some new books from there. So the first book that I read in 2019 was Scythe by Neil Shusterman, and that one I did via audiobook and that was fantastic. I've bought the sequel already on Audible and I'll be reading that next, and it was super enjoyable. This has been on my radar for such a long time, and then it suddenly clicked that I could probably just go and read this via audiobook rather than waiting to get around to it. I ended up reading it 5 out of 5 stars. And I really want to buy some hard copy versions of them as well, so that I have those beautiful spines looking out of my bookshelf, but I'm going to try and resist to avoid running out of room on my bookshelves, which has already happened, but it's fine. It's fine. I'll keep finding spaces. This was just so good though, I highly recommend reading it. It's set in a futuristic world where basically humankind have overcome all illnesses and mortality basically, so nobody dies anymore, which means there are the Scythes, and they are basically reapers. So certain people are selected to go through training and an apprenticeship to earn their ring, and they have a quota of people that they have to cull every year in order to keep the population in control. The main characters are in an interesting situation where the 2 of them are apprenticed under one like master Scythe, and all sorts of stuff goes down. It's really exciting. There's lots of things that you don't expect from it, and it still explores some really interesting ideas. The next book that I read was an arc, and that was Enchanté by Gita Trelease. This is an arc edition of it. This is not what the final cover looks like. I have just done a full review of this over on my blog, which is ozbooksnow.com, if you want to go and have a read of that. There is a global book extravaganza going around on the internet right now, which is set up by Pam Macmillan, who are the publishers for this particular book. And so heaps of people are participating in doing reviews, author interviews, and giveaways. So if you want to try and win yourself a copy of this book, make sure you go and check out my page and find some of those other pages that are doing the giveaways. This was really interesting. It's set in 1789 in France, which is the French Revolution, and follows a girl who has magic. So in this world there are people who do have magic. Quite simple and basic things, like just glamoring things to make them look like something else, and they are orphaned, and it's her and her sister and her drunk brother trying to get by, and there's all sorts of issues going on. Her brother's in major debt and he causes them so many issues, coming home drunk and demanding money, and the main character finds her way mysteriously, well, you'll find out when you read the book, into the circles of Versailles to try her hand at gambling whilst using a bit of magic. There's all sorts of different elements going on. There's a hot air balloonist. I feel like that's not what they're called, but one of those, and he's absolutely adorable. The characters have double lives all over the place, and I'm actually a bit sad that I don't think this is part of a series. I would love to have a follow-up book to find out what happens next, but as a standalone it does read really well. I did, however, only rate this one I ended up rating this one 3.5 out of 5 stars, mainly because it is a little bit of a slow burner, and I felt like I was anticipating a little bit more action and happening in this book. That didn't make any sense. I guess anticipating a little bit more action and stuff to happen in the book, and it didn't quite hit my expectations, but it was still a really good read that I would recommend. The next book that I read was also an ARC, and that was The Wicked King by Holly Black. This was phenomenal, and it is the sequel to The Cruel Prince. I cannot recommend this one enough. This series is absolutely insane. I have been loving it so much. I've heard some people who haven't been as excited about the sequel as they were about the first, but for me this was just as good, if not better than the first one. All of the characters are still doing lots of tricksy things, and all this deceit is going on, and our main character is still totally badass, which is awesome. So I am waiting with bated breath for the release of the third book, because I cannot wait to see where Holly Black takes this series. She's such a good writer. I can't. I obviously rated this one 5 out of 5 stars. The next book that I read was a bit of a nice surprise, and that was White Stag by Cara Barbieri. This one is a fantasy novel set in a sort of fantastic, well, it is set in a fantastical world where there's the real world and then a realm into the goblin world, and I really liked Barbieri's take on goblins in this. I have done a full review for this one, and that is up on my blog as well if you want to go and have a read of my further thoughts, but I think this one really should be read by a few more people. I've seen a few others have it on their TBRs. I just really enjoyed it. If you really like fae stories but you want something a bit different, the goblins are hard to imagine because this is not the traditional goblin. They are much more like Holly Black's fae in that they're beautiful and perfect, but it's things like when they kill someone else they absorb their life energy, and that's how they become more powerful, and there is a big rush to win the crown basically in this book, which is what the White Stag is. The White Stag is what they're hunting. It's called the Hunt, and the most powerful goblin who can track the White Stag down and kill it becomes the next Goblin King. And the main character is human, and there are lots of different things going on. She's lived for 200 years as a captive in this world, and it's just all sorts of interesting thoughts happening. Really excited to get the sequel and however many other books come out in this series, because this is just something a little bit unique and different, and I am so excited that someone has managed to scrounge up another part of fantasy that isn't like anything you've read before. So this one was also a 5 out of 5 star read for me. I highly recommend. The next book that I read I don't have on me because I just lent it to a friend, but that is P.S. I Still Love You by Jenny Han, and this was surprisingly absolutely incredible. I rated this one a 4 out of 5 stars, and I wasn't sure what to expect from this one. I picked it up because when I got it in a shop it was buy one get one half price, so I was like, might as well get another book, and that was the book that I chose to pick up. And I have been very hesitant to continue reading the Lara Jean series because I didn't feel like there was much need for a sequel following the events of To All the Boys I've Loved Before. But when the movie came out, and that was absolutely incredible and everyone has been loving that, and they announced that they're going to be making more, I felt more inclined to pick up a sequel. And do you know what? The sequel was just as required in its existence. No. The sequel was just as good as the first one, and reading it I was like, you know what, this story totally deserved to continue going. It was not finished after book 1, so if you're like me and you haven't picked it up yet because you just don't really see the need to continue with the series, 100% worth the read. It's such a nice, fluffy, light read that you could just binge in a couple of sittings and feel happy about life because it is so much fun. I really do love these books. The next book that I read was a real surprise, and one that I sort of got on a whim. Well, not quite on a whim, but that was Mortal Engines by Philip Reeve. Now this one I read via audiobook, and that was such a fantastic experience. Highly recommend if you haven't read this yet, or if you're going to do a reread, do yourself a favour and go and get the audiobook. The narration for this is insane. It is so good. It is so much fun. It feels like watching a film. Probably was better than the film that came out, but I haven't seen it, and that was what made me buy it, because when the film came out I thought, you know what, I really want to read this before I see this film. It just was like, So I haven't seen the film yet, and I also haven't heard anything good or bad about it. I haven't heard anything at all. So I'm curious to see how it worked. Having now read the book, I really don't know how they would have made a film out of that. I mean, it's such an extreme setting with interesting characters that I don't know. They could have done it, but seeing as I haven't heard anything about it, I'm assuming it was a little bit of a flop. This was really good though. I really enjoyed this, and I will absolutely be continuing on with the series and just reading everything that I can set in this world, because it is so interesting. It's such an interesting concept. It's a lovely steampunk dystopia, and there's not enough books in that genre out. I rated that one a 4 out of 5 stars, and I am anticipating that the series will only continue to get better from that point. And if you're like me and you didn't actually know what this was about before you started reading, it is basically set in the future after humanity has all but wiped itself out in a 60-minute war, and people have taken cities such as London and put them on wheels. really hard to imagine, but they've basically made this mobile machine which is a city and people live on different tiers. I kind of very much so likened this to World Shaker, if anyone else has read that. World Shaker looks like this, with the sort of concept of different levels and classes. But anyway, it's very interesting because there's so much, again, lies and deceit about the true motives of the city and the people in charge and what they're trying to do, and just the whole concept of cities eating other cities because they chase them. That's why they have wheels, and they're called traction cities, and they catch other smaller cities or bigger cities if they can, and they take all of their parts and either kill or enslave the people that live on that city. So it was a very interesting concept. There's a lot more going on for it than just those cities. There are some that aren't on wheels. Anyway, I will let you read it to find out. It's such a good read. I thought I had another book to tell you about, but I didn't because I finished that one yesterday, and that will be for March, so we will talk about that next month. So yeah, that was all I got around to reading over the last 2 months. I think I read 3 books or 4 books in January and 2 books last month. It has been abominable for me actually getting anything done. But I'm just going to keep this video nice and short and sweet. I don't think I'm going to be doing my haul in this video. I might leave it for another time, otherwise we will be here for too long. Let me know if you've read any of these books and what books that you managed to get around to reading in January and February, and I am crossing my fingers that I'm going to have more time to read some more books in March. I have so many exciting ones lined up. I'm currently reading The Crown's Game, which is one I've been wanting to read for so long, and I am reading Heroes by Stephen Fry on audiobook, so lots of exciting things to be talking about at the end of this month. But for now, I will see you in my next video. Goodbye.